Hello YouTube newsletter and survival group subscribers. This is Terral from Terral03.com. Today's August 21st, 2020. This is a remake of the update report for newsletter number 34. Seismic event indicators say Earth has started the second Earth change uptick period for the 2020 Earth orbit cycle relative to the black star position between the Sun and the Libra constellation. This is where we were on May the 17th. See, we're at the 90 position. Black star Sun center line is right here. Black star is going to be positioned likely inside of Mars orbit path, right in this location right here. See, we're at the 90, what that looks like on the diagram. This is where we're on the 17th, so we're just a little bit beyond that. Greater potential for large earthquakes is where we are right here, moving through this. We're going to see an uptick through here, then a mini lull, and then we're going to come to the backside alignment on November the 17th. This is where we are in the solar system. Taking a look around the solar system, this alignment is scheduled for December 21st at the winter solstice. And you can see Neptune, Uranus. You can draw just over a 45-degree angle. 45 would be right here. All the planets want to be in here. Mercury's going to swing on around and join the rest of the planets inside of this small angle. Back over to here to the newsletter. And even since yesterday, I was hesitating on putting the O in here. It's quite obvious to me that we have already reached the O position here. And just like on the last cycle, the seismic values, they showed just one 7 magnitude earthquake moving through this period right here. And 24 of the 5 magnitude earthquakes. It's just below the year-over-year average, which is 27. And you can look at I like to show you these previous weeks. It's really obvious here for the 6 magnitude earthquakes. Then when you go back year-over-year, this is the average for these weeks that you're looking at here. 3.65 is what we're looking at right now. Last week that was just 1.66. Before that were 2s. So you can see the decline as we're moving away from the black star. And then the big jump whenever we get to this jolt period, this little jolt that we're in right now. And the 2.54 magnitude earthquake number did not reach the red value. Show you down here. Pardon me. This is a little bit concerning to me because even though you're seeing these 4, this is caused by magma wave action. That used to take place December and January. It swung over to the other side of the solar system where it's happening now. This is, even though you see these 4 close together, this is 8. That's in the last 404 days. We should have had 22 of these large magnitude earthquakes over the same period. So what you're seeing is, and it's easy to see with the 6 magnitude earthquakes, that we were at 4, 2, then 1 as we're reaching this 90-degree angle position, which is typical of what's going on. And my concern is that these, even though it doesn't appear that way because this magma wave action caused this, the higher magnitude earthquakes are decreasing, the low magnitude earthquakes are increasing. You see we're in red values for all this period. And then as we're reaching this 90 position, then it's starting to drop lower, which is kind of normal. The thing is, there's going to be a period when we're going to lose these high magnitude earthquakes, and then we're going to lose the low magnitude earthquakes too. That's the danger sign that we're looking for. And the reason is because of what's going on inside of our planet with this magma plume formation. This is 2015 image. It's growing out of control. Now, since it's made the mantle plume connections, it now looks more like this. And the problem, let me show you. Magma plume formation growing out of control. Here's the Hawaii mantle plume connection. It was made May of 2018. The energy that was going to Kilauea is now going into the magma plume formation, and it's making additional mantle plume connections around the world. So this region here is glassy type magma, as you can see right here. Rocky type magma, glassy type magma, metal. Transition zone. The difference between what's happening, this is silica-based magma that's in here, and this is silica-based magma inside of here, but it's filled with magnetite, which is changing the magnetics of our planet. So as this guy is growing from the D layer of Earth core, the energy, that's an additional energy source added to the solar electromagnetic energy, the solar redirected electromagnetic energy coming from the black star, and now these mantle plume connections being made. It's causing this fella here to grow out of control. It's displacing the glassite magma below and above this transition zone, which is causing the diameter of our planet to grow ever so slightly and in slow motion. That's the reason we're losing the high magnitude earthquakes, because the 12 primary tectonic plates on our planet are separating. Big time problems coming for the future whenever this scenario plays out. This energy causes this thing to fill the entire transition zone, and it's these magma horns right here. That's the problem. I'm going to come back to that here in a few minutes. So we're definitely at the 90, and we're moved beyond that. So these numbers here are now going to return and start going back to 2, 4. They're going to start going higher, which we can already see that. And we had a large magnitude earthquake. Let me show you the earthquake 3D. This guy right here is a monster. Just struck this morning, 6.9. And you guys were told this quake right here was caused by magma wave action returning down corridor 1. This quake right here, I mean, this Philippines prediction came true. The magma at the end of when we get to the end of this low period, wants to return to the origination zone. That's what you're seeing right now. So this quake was actually triggered by magma wave action coming across corridor 4 this way. So then what I just said in the bad report that I made yesterday with the bad sound is that now this region right here is the next candidate, because this wave coming this wave coming this way wants to create another event that's down in here. But this fellow that's right here, 629, this is near the bottom of the transition zone. And watch that number right there. Here, let me just click on it. That's 6.9. When you go down, you add a magnitude when you go down 500 feet. So this is a massive, massive magma wave action that's going to be initiated. This quake, with this singular quake right here, creates more magma wave action than these 8 combined. So now we've got giant magma waves coursing down these corridors towards the terminal end positions. It's been a while. We just had 1.6 magnitude earthquake in the last 7 days for the USGS reporting period. Now you're looking at 3 at the same time. Earth is responding to the electromagnetic jolt. And that is caused whenever this is where we were in February. This is where we were in May between the two stars. See the 90 over here? Similar situation on the opposite side of the solar system. We get to this jolt zone because the black star is moving in this direction. So here we are in May, June, July, then we get here to August. We're moving away from it all this time. Magnetic portal connection is getting longer and longer. When we turn this corner, the black star is coming in this direction. So it's a relative thing. We're getting less and less and less electromagnetic energy. Then we turn the corner and it's heading in this direction, then this magnetic portal connection starts to shorten. Whenever it starts to shorten, and then it connects and it disconnects and reconnects, more of those internal conduits are active. So all of a sudden, Earth starts getting powerful electromagnetic energy coming from the black star as we're moving through this jolt zone right through here. In May the 17th, we're going to pass behind the sun relative to the black star and likely have large magnitude earthquake. Whenever that happens, from 2014 to 2018, we had a pair of large magnitude earthquakes that happened here. 2019 is the first time we had a singular event, and then the backside, after the backside alignment is where we had looking at this diagram here, this is where we had the large magnitude earthquakes happening. We had 2 big quakes, then we had 3, then we had 2. 7 big quakes striking from 2014 all the way to 2018. 2019 changed everything. We had a singular event on the backside for the first time. And then we missed the near side alignment quake here in May for the first time in a decade. And for a 3-week period right through this, we had 0 new volcanic eruptions on our planet, which is disturbing. That's never happened before. We haven't had a single week without a new volcanic eruption event. And we had 2 days, we like 2 days of having 3 consecutive weeks right through here because we were so close to the black star, the Earth core was heating up so rapidly that we missed our near side alignment quake event. So that's the science and the reason why this activity is happening. So whenever we're at the alignments, the new volcanic eruptions are happening up in the Aleutians. They're happening up in this region near the terminal end positions of corridor 1 and 2 around the Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire. Then as we move month after month, that energy, magma wave energy, goes back to Russia and then Japan. And it was easy to see the Philippines was going to be next. And after that's the origination zone. So this is a common pattern. There's some things in the pattern that I'm able to keep seeing, particularly at the end of the uptick period, at the end of the lull period, whenever the magma plume is wanting to contract. Previous orbit cycles, it contract greatly. Now it's not contracting as much because of the mantle plume connections it's made. So you have dual forces combating each other, with the black star giving us less electromagnetic energy, but additional magma mantle plume connections being made to the magma plume formation. I know that's a mouthful. So this fellow right here is going to cause a lot of magma wave action. And let me show you the map. Then there are other concerns that I have, particularly right here. San Vincent, Mexico. Remember, if you watched last week, then it was the Salton Sea that had this quake swarm area. And reports came out. They're worried about what's going on in the San Andreas Fault because of the quake swarm area. This thing just popped out of nowhere. And look at the depths. Look at these 10s. Just below 10 kilometers is going to be the average on this. So let me show you the why this is really concerning to me. See how high this fella is? When we're at outside orbital position like this is whenever this quake swarm area wants to. We have far fewer events. Whenever we're in May and November, this thing is off the charts. So we're watching right here at outside orbital positions. This came down, but this simultaneously, this guy's popped up right here. Now let's take the rings away. First of all, the magnitudes. Is that 4.4 at the bottom? 4.5 at the top. Large rings. Now let's take the rings away and show you where. See Salton Sea right here? This quake swarm area was right here in the Salton Sea. It has migrated south, all these events. So try to explain why quake swarm area that was here shifted south like that. Now I'm not saying this has happened, but this is the exact pattern that I'm looking for catastrophe to come to this entire region that's right here, that's in the circle right here. And here is my concern. Let's zoom in a little bit, see if I can explain this to you. This magma plume formation, this giant blob that I showed you earlier, this thing originated underneath Indonesia, Fiji from the deep earthquake events. Thousands and thousands of Hiroshima bombs causing that expansion and the percolation of the magma, which releases the magnetite. This thing right here is loaded with metal. This thing reaching around the planet is what's causing the magnetic North Pole to migrate. The way that it was closer to Canada, now it's going around the world because these arms have reached over into the Atlantic Ocean, changing the center of our the magnetic center of our planet, which is also affecting the magnetosphere, which is also affecting this anomaly that's down here where these sumo wrestlers are pushing. This is quarter 2, big boy, and the quarter 4, the big boy, extending along the Earth equator. This is where, pardon me, they push together right here. So this right here is, pardon me, this region that's right here is of great concern. So this main blob was here. It pushed underneath Hawaii. The main blob pushed under Hawaii, May 2018. March of 2019, see, these things were still apart until March of 2019. That's whenever this leading edge of the main blob pushed up against corridor 2A and began pushing it in this direction. So we had a choke point. But see that choke point right here? So when you get these deep earthquake events that take place under Fiji, it sends magma wave action coursing through this corridor, rebounds, and then slingshots north. Well, you have multiple earthquake events, multiple waves. You get some coalescence here at the elbow position, and then you might have 8 giant waves coming from the 8 big, deep earthquake events that we just have on our map right now. They coalesce maybe into 4 waves. Whenever they hit up against this, 2 waves have become 1 wave. Slingshot north, and you have 4 big waves going in this direction, and that's what triggers the pattern of quakes that we see striking at the 10-kilometer depth. Let's put these rings back for a minute. Put the depths back on. You see these guys striking at the 10-kilometer depth? And they also, I've showed you before how they strike in a pattern. The latest one striking first. You have them up here striking at the 10-kilometer depth, down here striking at the 10-kilometer depth. This fellow right here with these guys at the 10 striking in the middle. This will be the push that creates the choke point. So for example, Ridgecrest, remember that weekend, July 2019, we had multiple waves go up. Now at the terminal end positions is where you get the coalescence. So that magma plume, so this terminal end position is where these waves pile up. It causes expansion of this entire terminal end position. Then there's a neutral point where internal and external pressures equalize, and then all that stored energy comes back as one giant wave. That's what triggered the 6.2, the 6.4, and the 7-pointer at Ridgecrest in this area. Similar situation happened on this cycle, but instead of happening up here, it happened in Mexico because of the leading edge of this main blob that's pushing down. Okay, so now my concern is for the horn formations that are being pushed. It's not just this 2A corridor that's being pushed underneath the United States. This is kind of scary, what I'm getting ready to show you. Let me zoom in on this guy so you can look a little bit closer. These horn formations that are right here, let me show you on the other diagram again. These horn formations, this is actual mapping data from 2015. It's these horn formations right here that are pushed underneath the United States. When the magma wave action comes through, these guys get lifted. But these are not contained within the origination zone, within the Earth-mantle transition zone. They stick above the transition zone, like this. And the more wave action comes through here, the more they get pushed up, pushed up, pushed up, pushed up. So the problem is when you're in a convergence area, which that's the western United States, then remember that this magma superplume formation is like a lava lamp formation. It's contained within buoyancy barrier corridors. This main blob, the whole blob is wanting to move as a singular unit, but this horn formation pushes up into the rocky type magma. So it's all magma down in here, liquid. Further you go up, the more you get into solid. The tip of this horn formation pushes up and up and up and up and up and up. As it's doing, see the waves that are illustrated here? That is what's causing this. This Idaho swarm, see how it's almost gone away now and the depths have deepened? So this shifting from the Salton Sea to the south of the border in Mexico makes me believe that the main blob is pushing, and the main blob is wanting to go in this direction. The horn formation is stuck up into the rocky type magma and it's being moved. When it pushes up far enough and gets into that real rock, and then the entire blob underneath wants to move, that's when the top of that horn is going to get torn away. That's a breach of the buoyancy barriers that contain this glassy type magma. So the sign that the Earth is going to give us that the breach is taking place is going to look just like this. Not saying that it's happened already. I was concerned that it might have happened with the Idaho swarm, and then with the Nevada swarm, and then with the Salton Sea swarm. They went. The reason that the Salton Sea swarm has now disappeared is because the trigger has been pushed south, and that's what's happening with this main blob. Right here, this push is causing that push, and the whole thing is as it's pushing, it's changing what's underneath the surface. So the horn formations are being like dragged along. And if that top of that horn blows off, then you have a breach, and this high pressure, everything wants to come out the breach. This blob part moves, this thing is stuck up into the rocky-type magma, and that's when you get the tearing, the breach of the buoyancy barrier corridors. Now remember, this is right here is 410 kilometers below the surface, so you're getting closer and closer to the surface. Whenever this happens, then you're going to have a breach, and then this high pressure glassy-type magma filled with magnetite is going to continue to go towards the surface like a bubble on the bottom of the ocean that goes bigger and bigger and bigger as it gets to the surface. It's going to displace this magma out of the way, out of the way, out of the way, and continue to push upward and upward and upward until it lifts the entire U.S. West Coast. It's going to become wider and wider and wider and push and push and push upward. And what that does is it creates a scenario that's like this. Everything gets pushed up. Everything gets pushed up. The rocky-type magma is being pressurized by what's pushing from underneath, and it's looking for somewhere to go. It's being pushed out of the way. You're going to see more and more activity from Yellowstone. Notice on the scaling map of the future, the Yellowstone location is still there. Why is it still there? It's there because the rocky-type magma is going to use Yellowstone as a pressure relief mechanism. It's going to erupt, and it's going to be rocky-type magma first until the glassy-type magma displaces the rocky-type magma out of the reservoir, out of the magma chamber, out of the volcano, and then begins spewing. Thing is, by the time that happens, this entire region is going to be raised up, and you're going to have a breach. So this entire region is going to be raised up by what's coming out of the Earth Mantle Transition Zone, and then the entire region, whenever you get the breach, is going to collapse. That's what causes this entire region, 7-state area, to fall underneath the ocean. Since the tectonic plates are separated by the growing magma plume, superplume, in the Earth Mantle Transition Zone, then you do not have the rigidity to keep the crust strong, like breaking an egg. So whenever this area drops, massive, massive crustal displacement. Waves going through underneath, making the crust roll, just like the waves in the ocean, causing this. And there's another subcontinent that's supposed to pop up out here according to the Scallion maps. So the science of how this scenario happens is being explained to you right now. Because of this guy right here that's growing out of control in Earth Mantle Transition Zone, and I've written hundreds of geologists, geophysicists, and nobody appears to be taking the threat seriously. On the other side of the planet, things are slowing down compared to last week. This guy right here is this. Generally, you see all these quakes west. Put more time on here. West of the Nepal swarm area, which is not well defined right now. They're almost always, they're all striking at the 10-kilometer depth like that. This guy at 93 kilometers, see how it's raised up? This is an anomaly. And then these are in, what is that, Croatia? Bosnia, Croatia region. That's right here. Put some borders on here. This is making a line towards that supervolcano that's right here. Similar to the scenario that we have with the Yellowstone. 3 new volcanic eruptions. If you've been following the report, you've pretty much been told what was going to happen. Generally we have 1 or 2, and then the origination zone. Sometimes Philippines is one of the two. And this week we have all three new volcanic eruptions in the origination zone. That's where the energy goes to at the end of the Earth change uptick period. We'll see a similar situation that you're looking at right now happening in February when we're on the other side of the solar system. So that's the Earth change part. I'm sorry for the bad report. It looks like that I'm like deliberately trying to scare people, but what I'm seeing inside the planet, what the Earth is testifying, is the scary scenario of what's happening. This is corridor 2B activity. Last week the activity was pushed out to here, but the energy, the magma wave action is now gone down to the origination zone. When it passes through Japan, that's whenever the energy pushes this out. This is what we saw for the last 2 weeks. The energy pushed out in this direction. This Greece quake storm area is trying to reform, but it's not going to. The energy here for a little bit is going to want to go back in here, but the wild card is the deep earthquake events. So now that we've got this big guy, this is a big massive event that's right here. That's going to send magma wave actions coursing up through all of the corridors. So because of this event right here, that changes what typically happens. So we can easily see that some of that energy coming up quarter 3 and pushing everything right through Gibraltar here in just a week or two. So that's the Earth change section of what I wanted to share with you guys. Things pretty much as expected, with energy returning to the origination zone. Then, if you haven't seen the update report, then I wrote Stephen and Jana over to Israeli News, trying to get he was interviewing Scott, and made a special report video about that. Doing my best. Also wrote John Moore. Chris wrote yesterday. He wrote John Moore, trying to get me on with the interview over there. Sent John a copy of this right here. It came right at the end of the day yesterday. And so sent him a copy of this because he knows Stephen. He's one of his panel members. So made the argument, made the case, showed him the information, made a special report video explaining what's in this message. And so if you're new to the investigation, that's going to be a good video for you to watch. That's one of the best cases that I can make using the science, using the data. Wormwood 2028, we do not nearly have that much time before the black star gets there. This is from Marshall Masters. You can recognize the site here. My first radio show ever was on May the 3rd, 2011 with Marshall Masters. We did an hour and a half prep for an hour-long radio show. Very meticulous fella. I really liked working with him. The coronavirus strain is 10 times more infectious. This is the upgrade that I told you guys about. It's the D614. The fact that this thing has a 614 marker position is, and that's where the mutation's taking place, makes the thing more infectious and gives people fewer symptoms. Upgrade of the Herald strain that's now going around the planet. This, yes, I spent a lot of time on this. There's 3 primary threats: Black Star, Superplume, and the biological weapon. The biological weapon is the threat that's in our faces right now. Underestimating these threats is what is going to change all of our lives later in the timeline. It's very important. Identify threats, create the contingencies, and execute those plans on time. This is written from David. He's the first one on the Land Acquisition Committee. He is very, very awake. He's very close here in the near the Ozarks. He has his finger on the pulse of what's really happening, and this is his message to share with you guys. He recommends watching Gone with the Wind. In his overview, I did a little searching and added the links down here. And below the wall, this is a double image. Believe it or not, this is a double image of the sun. And it's a good idea before you start trying to represent images to understand what all the anomalies are. Asturian police now breaking into homes, smashing cars, windows, enforcing coronavirus lockdowns. This is coming to a place near you. So we're at the peak of the second wave right now. Things are going to slow down. They're going to turn down the volume. AI, 5G, turn down. the volume. We've reached the peak of the second wave right now. I believe the data is going to show that, just like it did for May the 17th being the peak of the first wave. There's going to be all kinds of commentary about where we are. Some people are going to say we're still in the first wave. Some people are going to say the third wave's already started. We're at the peak of the second wave here in the United States. Things are going to decline. People are going to be desensitized more and more and more, just like the viewers, you supporters on my YouTube channel. Many of you are being desensitized. And by my commentary, that's one of the reasons that AI allows me to keep walking around. And we can just look at the numbers, with the number of subs and the number of people that are actually keeping up with the investigation. So you have the black star putting people to sleep just by its influence. Like the full moon affects people, celestial objects affect people. That's why there's such a thing as astrology and the different houses and the different influences and forces. The black star is another influence. Not only do you have the elite using the media to desensitize you, but the black star influence itself, as it's getting closer and closer, is making people fall to sleep. Normalcy bias is happening. More and more people, it's every week that goes by, it's going to be more difficult to get for me to motivate you to work together, like Mike has written about the Aussie group, the survival group. There's about 20 of you. And there are many challenges being in the Southern Hemisphere. There's many challenges being in Australia where there are limited underground facilities. Like in Brazil, limited underground facilities. That's the advantage, one advantage that the Americans have in the Ozarks is having thousands and thousands of underground, access to thousands of underground areas. The point that I want to make is that my duty is to help you to understand the threats. Black Star, Superplume, COVID-19, Mad Max, the threat coming from the House of Rothschild, manipulating your government leaders, enticing them to go to the underground arc cities, leaving you behind because they're the elite and we're the useless eaters. Many, many things are working against all of us. It's very important that we identify the threats, create the contingencies, and execute those plans on time, like every military operation going back to David and the Israelites. And every military operation on earth works the same way. Three-pronged approach. Break out one of the legs and you fail. So I can help you get connected. At some point, the rest is up to you. You have to want it. It's like a recovering alcoholic. You can beg him, plead with him, but he has to want to fix himself, to help himself, pick himself up. It's the same situation. And remember that you must be persistent. Be persistent. Continue trying to open lines of communication. The Survival Group program is a lot about making lists, L-I-S-T-S, of things you need for neutralizing these threats, and friendship, creating relationships, becoming friends, rubbing shoulders, meets and greets, taking the time to do the things that unsuccessful people are unable or unwilling to do. FEMA camps gearing up to provide necessary slave wage. That's not what they're gearing up for. That's a smokescreen to make people think, oh, I can go there, at least I'm going to have a job. No, that's a processing plant. Processing people into fertilizer to feed the children of the New World Order. Exactly what Hitler did. Think Nazis, Third Reich, United States, Fourth Reich, House of Rothschild, Central Bank, Deutsche Mark, destroyed it. Cut the legs out of from underneath Hitler. That's what destroyed Hitler, was the House of Rothschild. Ready to move the Fourth Reich over to the United States, which he did, Federal Reserve. Here, now he's setting up central banks around the world. That's what the wars in the Middle East have been all about. Not about oil, not about politics, about currency creation. That's what killed Abraham Lincoln. That's what killed John F. Kennedy, Gaddafi. I mean, long list. Saddam Hussein. They rebelled against the House of Rothschild and they paid the price for it. That's why Trump is doing what Rothschild says. Because the people that got rid of John F. Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln, were the people that were supposed to be protecting him, protecting them. Rothschild owns everything, the elite. That's our real enemy. EMTs are leaving their jobs in alarming numbers. They are identifying the threat, pardon me, and doing what they have to do. for their own safety, for their own security. That's exactly what you should be doing too. And try not to get caught up in the right-left radicalization and polarization. Then lots more here in this newsletter. I want to help you to understand about what's coming for us here in the United States now that we're peak at the second wave. Travel restrictions. Look at the link. Check this out, because this is going to continue to change. Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York, they're going to use the numbers. This is governors and mayors polarizing for their people within their states, within their borders. You're no longer, there's time is coming where you're not going to be able to cross state lines. It's going to be guarded by the National Guard and then the military. This is going to continue to grow. Mandatory quarantines. Travel restrictions are going to turn into travel bans. And whenever people are trying to cross those borders and they have to go to quarantine, guess where they're going to wind up? In the FEMA camps. You're going to be detained. It's very important you identify this threat so that you, and those of you with the resources, need to get across those lines and get into your safe zone as soon as possible. That's why I'm reporting to you from the Ozarks right now. So that's the report I have to share with you. I'm going to test the sound this time before uploading it. I only did 6 sound tests so far to make sure that I'm coming through to you guys loud and clear. Get more information right at the website. If you have not done so already, identify the COVID-19 threat. It's a biological weapon. It's the Herald strain that we're dealing with right now. The mutagen will be released likely after the peak of wave 3. Moving forward. Underestimating this threat is going to be trouble later in the timeline. Keeping the viral DNA replication inhibitor in your system 24 hours a day, extremely important for neutralizing this threat. If you do not get your silver bullet from me, then get it from somebody. Make sure you have a good source of it. Make sure you have plenty of a supply, because the time's going to come when our communications are going to be cut off. That's part of their plan. That's going to be coming later in the timeline. Your options, you have the most options right now. Those options are going to become more limited from your travel restrictions. They're going to become more limited with your travel bans. They're going to become more limited with your ability to even use your credit card on the internet. Those things are coming later in the timeline. Appreciate your support. Get more information right at the website, and I'll see you on the next update report.